reduce headcount, period, right? Because I feel like in the beginning that was it. They all said we're reducing our headcount. There is no other strategy. That's how we're going to save money. And when you look at the numbers, it's still 33%, unless I'm looking at that wrong. So I find that interesting, the statistics, to Tim's point. So I'm at least important on this too.
All right, Paul, where are you?
I was actually more on the essential side. I know it is from a vendor. You know, I do think that we can, and John, I know you and I are going to an all-day event with the company today and the whole management team. But I think the leaders really do need to start spending more time thinking about what AI augmented teams are. What does it mean for individuals to have AI agents, for processes to have AI agents, for departments to have AI agents here? And I thought this was from a credible source that really starts, and also showing it visually how these different things to do it. So I had it as essential.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me, or am I muted here?
Yep. I hear you. We hear a little background.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry.
Mozart
yeah,
there.
I was going to make the case for essential. I think, actually, Tim, I didn't think it really pushed Microsoft much. It cites work by, the guys at Harvard Business School, McConney and so forth on the cyber thing. And then it is a pretty substantial survey. In addition, they use info they have from Microsoft application use, things like how many changes, are happening to people's work, late in the use of, before the last 10 minutes before a presentation is done. And it's just this whole notion of, folks getting more.
That was depressing to me.
Yeah, it was incredibly depressing, but I think it's accurate in terms of how people are interrupted. I think it was 270 plus times a day, especially during peak work hours. So strangely, the robots may give us the continuity that's been lost to interruption. I really rated this as essential. I think this starts with a frontier firm, and that this is the year that folks are going to be, I think, I agree with Microsoft's assertion here that this is the year that those firms that get on this are going to move ahead productively. So,
well,
anyway.
I won't argue with that. I think I just found it, and again, it's a good marketing piece in that it doesn't shout Microsoft, but two things. First of all, kind of Microsoft to an extent created this mess, so now they're going to sell us all sorts of stuff to get us out of this mess of interruption and stuff. Not alone. There's lots of factors, but the other thing is this. Well, you got to do it this year, or you're way behind. Okay, but let's have a little balance. Again, there's only so much firms can absorb at a given period of time. You can't go from 30% to 80% or 90% in 12 months. It has nothing to do with the technology. Yes, I agree, you need to be after it. But to say you have to go right to production right now, forget about pilots, I think that's bad advice.
Do they say that?
And that's indirectly because you're going to need lots of Microsoft stuff to do that.
Wow, I didn't read that. But anyway, let's rate this bad boy essential. And next, Akash.
The next one comes from Anthropic and talks about detecting and countering malicious uses of Claude.
Yeah, fascinating study here. They detail out a few bad actors and what they're up to. What do you think here, Amanda?
Yeah, I like this one, Dr. John. So I'd say it's at least important. Some might not agree, though, because I don't know that there's deep diving information. But yes, it does lay out quite a few use cases, which I find interesting. So I think it's important for the leader to understand that this is going on with these tools. And then on top of it, I don't think, let's say we decide to use Claude for something within an organization, and it's consistently used for bad acting purposes. I don't know that that's going to hurt us from doing business with them, but, and plus they're kind of putting it out there to us, right? It's not like they're hiding this from us and then they're in the news or something, but I don't know. It's interesting. So I don't know. I think some might find it optional, but I saw it as important.
Yeah. Paul, where are you on this?
Oh, that important, definitely important. I mean, it's funny. I'm reading this, John, and we're watching the change management challenges on every day in companies, and this is reminding me that there's also a change management challenge on malicious actors. They get up to speed. They need to demystify these tools, but it's clearly coming, and So I had it important.
So you're feeling sympathy for Tony Soprano with his personnel problems.
I'm not feeling any sympathy, but I thought last year would be the year of deep fakes and a lot of disruption here, and I suspect I obviously was wrong, and it's coming. So maybe it'll be later this year, next year.
Yeah, I love the way it takes the partially competent crook and makes them more competent. What do you think here, Tim?
Yeah, it doesn't say anything new, so it's good. It's well detailed, but these are well understood capabilities that anybody in security has been aware of for a while now. So in that sense, it doesn't say anything new. I think it is good that they detail it and that they're bringing it up. I'm reminded, as we have been several times, that we are much closer to this than the average reader. So probably good for them to read it. So I wouldn't argue with important. And just another lesson in, children with guns are never a good idea. And we are effectively toddlers with these technologies. So we're likely to do some damage.
All right.
Tim, are you surprised we don't have more news on AI generated fraud things out there, or they just get underreported, or are we not?
I think a lot of it, as with the original ransom attacks, is people don't want it in the news if they're having problems. So a lot of this is massively underreported. It just takes time. Again, we can see it. I told my boss in 1994 that ransom was going to be the problem, not vandalism and not theft. That ransom was going to be the problem. You're going to get called up. All your data is encrypted. You can't get at anything, and it's 30 minutes before your business opens, and you're going to be asked for a lot of money now it's Bitcoin, but at that time we said in a Swiss bank account, and but it took 20 plus years for that to really become reality. So it's sort of easy to see where the goal lines are, but it often takes longer than you think for a variety of reasons. And some of it is underreporting, but it's also just the usual human incompetence. As I like to say, never assume malevolence where incompetence will do.
Well, it goes back to, I'm sure those crooks are sitting there saying, oh my God, I got to change this organization, but we can only observe so much change. Anyway. All right.
Yeah.
We can give this one an important. Ankash, next on we're doing two together, I think, one on Perplexity and one on Google.
The other interesting thing is, at least we should exhort and encourage, because the one thing about this that I don't know how it works or if there is any effort here, but they banned these folks. Okay, great. Did you let all the other vendors know that these folks are out there? Because that would be a nice thing to do, so that they couldn't just move right from Claude to ChatGPT to Perplexity to, which they're going to do, I assume, and even try and create new accounts even back on Claude. So there's a real need for some cooperation in the community here, which is one of the most effective ways to shut these efforts down, if you can just basically know who they are.
Absolutely. Pankaj, next.
Okay, the next one talks about how Google is paying Samsung enormous amounts to pre-install Gemini in Samsung phones. And we have another article where Perplexity seems to be doing something similar, where they are partnering with Samsung and Motorola to put Perplexity on their devices.
Yeah, I assigned this to myself. I rated these two as optional. I mean, that interesting antitrust case against Google in terms of how they're paying to get carriage. This happens in every industry. For cereals, it's called the slotting allowance in supermarkets. The real question for me is, how much do the regulators really push back on the monopolistic practices of the people who have infinite cash, like Google? So glad to see him pushing back. No new news here. Perplexity's joined the game to try to buy their way into some eyeballs. So I was going to rate this optional. Any thoughts, Amanda, Tim?
Optional.
No, I agree. Yep. Nothing much here. Yep. Although it's interesting, it says Google has already locked up Samsung, so Perplexity may just be dreaming.
Yeah, well, we'll find out. And it's also
or waiting for the DOJ to order Google off of Samsung, and then they'll have their chance.
I think everyone understands how important that starting gate is. It just feels hard that Perplexity is going to outbid Google. So I think you're in a great driver's seat.
Yeah, only legal interruption could
Correct.
cause any difference, is my guess. Yeah.
Yeah, the thing that I find so kind of crazy is, why doesn't Samsung or T-Mobile go buy like Inflection or somebody like that, or do a deal with Inflection, and take advantage of their own destiny? I mean, they have a chance to be first in the demand chain again, and they're giving it away to the folks who have way better margins and more market power. I don't know why one would do this, but whatever.
They have their own AI system, which they're backseating for this. So again, Siri, right? if you're there's no substitute for good product. If you have a crappy product, it's not going to help.
Yeah, I hear you.
So yeah, if they could get a good product of their own, that's a different story. And who knows why they can't do that? But they both of the big ones seem incapable at the moment.
Yeah, I bet there's some consultants in there saying it's not your core competence, which is totally baloney advice.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Every innovation is the creation of every substantial innovation is the creation of a new competence for the company that does it. Anyway, it's nuts. Enough on that. I will rag on that book later. Next, Nakaj.
The next one comes from XAI. So XAI's Grok chatbot can now see the world around it. So they have introduced vision capability.
Sorry, I'm trying to mute here because of background noise. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, it's very short and sweet, right? There's not a lot going on here. It's like kind of product announcement-y, because that's literally all they're doing is say we have this thing, as far as I can see. But I've been waiting for vision to start breaking out. So I mean, I've been sitting patiently, like generative AI. Okay, when are we going to start getting to vision and like getting into other capabilities? So for me, I think it's important to note that maybe we'll start seeing something happening with vision more, because I feel like it's been on the back burner and there's so many cool things going on in the computer vision space. But I mean, what's here? So maybe for the leader, it's optional. But again, just that whole vision aspect of it and saying, hey, we have this whole other side of things that we could start tapping into. I liked it for that reason. So I could say just optional because there's not a lot here, or I could say it's important for what I'm saying, that I love that we're going to give vision some credit finally here.
All right, so we're on the fence. Essential topic, really short and optional article. What do you guys think here? Tim, Paul?
Yeah, optional for me. I mean, ChatGPT has already had this for a while, so this is a little bit of a catch up, and it's a product announcement. I agree, it's an important trend, an everyday miracle, whatever you want to call it. But this is table stakes already, and will be on all the vendors, I suspect. Claude seems to be the only holdout. They don't do anything with vision, and I assume they have some reason, but they don't.
All right, Paul, we're headed for optional. Any objections?
1,000% agree with Tim. Well stated.
All righty, optional it is. Ankaj next.
The next one comes from Eugene Yan, and he talks about why LLM as a judge won't save your product, fixing your process will.
Yeah, this one I assigned to me. Man, again, this gets for me a triple optional. An article could have been better written by the robots, saying something obvious poorly. So optional.
Yeah, it is at one level. It's pretty bad. I agree. The robots could have done better. The idea here, though, is not that well understood, and evaluating AI systems is a big deal because people just aren't doing it. I think I'm going to say optional and go along with you, but I really wish we had a good one to point to, because people need to take this seriously. And there are too many people just shoving their products out there. Maybe it'll work. I guess that's the way the PC revolution and Bill Gates went forever, is, well, we'll just shove it on our consumers and they'll be our guinea pigs and they'll tell us when they hate it and then we'll fix it.
Yep, that certainly has been the mantra. Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm good on optional for this one. Don't have a lot to say about this one.
Paul?
Optional.
All righty, Ankaj, optional it is. Next.
The last one that we have for today comes from VentureBeat and talks about how Amazon's SWE Polybench has exposed the dirty secret about AI coding assistant.
Yes, this is one that I think it's a bit of a sensational title. Not sure it's a dirty secret, but Amanda, what do you think?
Yeah, so I'm on the fence with this, and then I dug into like that actual bench, that SWV poly bench, that you can like dig into the article further and kind of look through that, things like that. I mean, to be completely honest, if you're not in the full-on development space as the leader, I don't know. I'm not going to say you don't care about this. I mean, you care about coding assistance, but I don't know if it's really for you. Not only that, from a developer point of side of things, they can give me 1,000 articles. Like I always do this, and I say I'm not being paid by Julius AI, but I love Julius AI. Okay, just putting it out there. You could have 1,000 articles that tell me how it's awful, and I'm going to use it because as a developer, if it's working for me, if it's bug free, if it's fixing the bugs, fine. So you could tell me it's awful, but if it's serving its purpose, so I don't know if I need. It's a nice to have, and maybe for somebody who's less on the development side, even. So maybe I'm contradicting myself here. That maybe if you're less on the development side, you want to hear some of this, so you can get some input on coding assistance. But for me, from my side, I'm like, I feel like this is optional.
It's funny. I was going to argue essential because I think it's having a more comprehensive benchmark in how good the different coding assistants are. I would think, given that coding is probably the biggest adoption along with customer service, in that this benchmark's available now, then anybody can use it. I don't know. I was kind of leaning the other way because I think any AI leader's going to adopt. I can't think of an AI leader that won't adopt some kind of coding assistant, and then have a better benchmark for that across the different languages and deeper capabilities within those languages. Anyway, so we have an O, we have an E. What do you think, Tim?
I was more on the optional side. I can sort of joke the way we joke about standards, that the nice thing about benchmarks is there's so many to choose from. And so yes, it seems like it's good. It's kind of a product announcement. It's a benchmark announcement. So we don't, the key thing about a benchmark is, it's like a randomly controlled drug trial. Randomly controlled drug trials are generally predictive. They tell you whether the drug is going to do something that you want it to do or not. Benchmarks, as far as I can tell, don't have that much predictive value. So that's the problem. If they could tell me, okay, this will really distinguish how your application is going to perform in production with real people. This is Amanda's point, right? I don't care what the benchmarks say if it works for me and I'm using it productively, because I can't tell that easily myself, and I can't put the effort in to try 5 other coding assistants, one of which might be much better for me. But the one that I'm using works, it's above threshold. So the benchmarks right now, the problem is they don't really discriminate theory from practice. They don't really tell you, okay, if it does better on this benchmark, it will perform better in my usage.
All right, Paul, where are you on this one?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't import, and I think some of the leaders should know about it. I thought, Tim, I agree with your statement there. I mean, at least to me, the benchmarks at least a guide to potentially help you get a short list of 3 or 4. I mean, it is absolutely overwhelming how many code editing tools out there, and how to decide 3 or 4 that your team might want to start evaluating is non-trivial, but important in my view.
All right, let's head for important on Kaj. Great. If you give us the tote, any announcements or anything, anybody? Well, all right. For my money, this whole thing about the Frontier organization, and I'll be writing more on this, building out that article. I think that it's a huge issue that I think leaders need to understand. We're seeing, at least in our client base, and it's a convenience sample, not a statistical or scientific sample, but we're really seeing the difference between organizations that are adopting and moving ahead. And to your point, Tim, it takes time. So, the easiest way to get going on something that takes time is to start now.
So I don't argue with the you need to start now part.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. So we have 1 essential, 2 importance, and 3 optionals. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow morning and have a good AI day. Bye-bye now.